Going on, everybody? Zach back here with another episode of Clutch Crew Sports. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about some unpleasant things happening in the NFL. We've got another episode of the Lock Board, and we'll review what happened last week, as well as talk about the NBA Finals. We've seen 3 games now, so we're going to talk about how those games went and what we expect to happen for the rest of the series. But let me introduce you to the rest of our crew.
What's going on, guys? It's Connor, the co-host with the most, and it was a bit disappointing that I didn't get to see my Steelers play this week. We'll get to that in a little bit later, but I'm excited to talk about the NFL this week and all the craziness that's been going on.
And what's going on, y'all? This is Eric, your ranting co-host. I actually don't have to really rant about my lockboard performance. I finally had a decent week. I'm not picking first or second this time, so I'm pretty happy with that. So hopefully the streak will continue.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? Nate here. Hopefully y'all had a better sports weekend than I did. UCF lost. The Pats just lost right before we recorded this, and I don't think I got a single pick on my lockboard, right? So hopefully turn things around. Should be a fun episode tonight talking about the better parts this weekend.
Yeah, get your sports woes out of here.
Yeah, you can only go up from here.
pretty much.
Yeah. All right. So as usual, we'll start our episodes with Around the Shield, talking about this time we're going to talk about a story, and then we'll go talk about some actual games that happened. But Connor, tell us about obviously the big news going on in the NFL.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know who it was in our Discord. I don't know if it was Walker or Jackson that told us to be careful about mentioning the C word, but I guess I will try not to refer to it.
I was actually on Brody Sports Talk, and I asked them about that, and they said they didn't care. They brought it up because now YouTube's like changed their policy, so it's not like a forbidden word now. So
so COVID-19, there we go. Boom.
Wait,
you don't have to come up with a code word for it or anything like that. We can just say it.
Were people really getting banned for saying COVID in videos?
Well, people weren't getting banned, but videos would get taken down, and if you have 3 strikes and your channel gets banned.
Oh, yeah. COVID. Oh my God, dude. Okay,
all
sorry,
right,
go continue.
But yeah, so with COVID-19, obviously I mentioned my Steelers didn't play. There was a reason for that. Unfortunately, the Titans had a lot of positive players tested for COVID, and thankfully the Steelers had none. So we should be good to go this upcoming week. Go on. I don't know why I'm forgetting who we're playing now, but we should be good to go. Philly, that's right. Yeah, I don't know why I forgot that. But yeah, we should be good to go to play Philly this week. But obviously, I know I wanted to talk about this because I thought it was really interesting the way that the NFL handled this game. Because while I don't disagree that it was probably a good idea to postpone the game because the Titans had these players and coaches test positive, I do think it was interesting that the Titans basically didn't receive any kind of penalty for this, and the Steelers are probably coming out worse from this than the Titans are, because with the Titans, they obviously, I think it was at the point of when they canceled it, they had something like 9 or 10 cases of COVID, and it was more coaches than players, but still 9 or 10 cases, and the NFL had been saying all the time before the season that, we've put in these procedures in place. We're not trying to postpone, change the schedule at all if we have to. If we we'll postpone a game to Monday or Tuesday, in the case with the Chiefs and Patriots got postponed to today. Well, I guess if you're listening to this on Tuesday, then yesterday. Yeah. But it got postponed to Monday, whereas the Steelers and Titans game got postponed altogether. Now, the difference was obviously, other than Cam Newton, which we'll get to later, there were no other Patriots players or staff that tested positive. So, and the Chiefs were all negative too, so they were able to go ahead with it. But it just seems like the Steelers are definitely getting the short end of the stick here because, like, all of a sudden the Steelers they had won 3 games in a row. Now all of a sudden on a week that wasn't supposed to be their bye week, because there is all that talk about how bye weeks kill momentum, and that's just part of part of what happens. You got to deal with it. But the Steelers weren't supposed to have their bye week this week. Now they're having a bye week 4 of the season, which means they're going to have to play 13 games in a row with no bye week, which in the world of especially with all these players getting injured right now, that's not a good thing, because there's a good chance the Steelers are going to have some injuries that they're not going to be able to have a bye week to rest for. And also, like I said, their momentum gets killed. They won 3 games in a row. The Titans had also won 3 games in a row. But it just feels like the Steelers are getting punished for something that they didn't do. Like, they followed all the COVID guidelines and none of their players were positive, whereas the players who tested positive on the Titans were some people I'd never heard of.
A long snapper and
and just like and some like backup linebackers and stuff, like someone that never plays unless it's special teams, and obviously the personnel. And in my opinion, what should have happened is because actually, I'll bring up a college example for this. Georgia Southern, in the first week of the college football season, they had 33 players that were out because of COVID. It was like players, and I think it was 33 players and a couple coaches and stuff, like, were not at that first game because of COVID, but they still played. And I don't know, I can't remember if the NCAA made them play or what, but they played with 33 people out. So my question is, why, as long as everybody else was negative and the Titans, all those players went into quarantine, why is it that the game got postponed? Why shouldn't the Titans be forced to play without all their people? And it's not like they were missing anybody important either. It's not like, Derrick Henry came down with COVID, or Ryan Tannehill, or, some like
their
big
whole offensive line.
Right. Or some big name player I don't know any big name players on their defense, but if someone like that came down with it, like, nobody major came down with it. It was all a bunch of nobodies. So why didn't the Titans end up playing this game when they could have easily done it, like I said, as long as no one else tested positive? And so now I'm wondering, I guess we're going to discuss this too, but should there still be some kind of penalty for the Titans? I don't know. I guess I should probably stop talking and going on here.
Your monologue.
I mean, it is my team. So.
Yeah, no, that's why you started.
But I'm interested to see what, I know Nate's going to be talking about the Patriots a little bit after this, but with Cam Newton. But I'm interested to see what you guys think about, like, what kind of penalty should they have played the game? Should the Titans have been penalized for that, or should they get some other kind of penalty, or was everything handled like 100%?
Yeah, no, I definitely don't agree that it was all handled 100%. The reason why they couldn't play on Sunday was because, and I'm not a doctor, so I don't know the science behind it and everything, but with the virus, there's a chance that you could test negative but still carry it or something. And I think what the reason of them postponing it was, well, maybe it won't show up in a test, but they could still transfer it and spread it. So it's one of those things that, or you could get false negative test reports. The fact that they had so many people end up getting it, and they kept adding on more and more each day. Now, the case with the college, Georgia State or Georgia Southern, I can't remember which one you said. But that college that you were talking about, that's a unique situation. I didn't really know about that, but I know college rosters have more people on them. I'm surprised they did that, though, even though they have a bigger roster size.
Well, the NFL did expand the practice squad and the rosters for that specific purpose this year.
They did. But the thing is the NFL, they can't have a forfeit. I saw people talk about that. The Titans should forfeit. They got to play every game for really to be considered like legitimate. But here's the thing where the NFL went wrong, in my opinion, is the NFL should have anticipated that, okay, we're going to have some stuff come up eventually. Let's just make a week 18 and designate that week 18 for postponed games. So in this scenario, the Steelers and Titans would play in week 18, and basically they would just end up getting an extra bye week in week 4, and still keep their normal bye weeks in the regular season. And you hope, and we hope that the Titans play next week, but in the event then that a team like the Titans would have to postpone another game, then you could, like, let's say they can't play against the Bills next week because they're still having so many outbreaks and stuff. Then you can have that later on in the season. Okay, they then in like week 10 they'll play the Bills or something. But I think it would be a good idea for the NFL just to have a baseline week 18 for any of these matchups, because then that doesn't really penalize Pittsburgh as much. They still would be playing a week before the playoffs, which could be a hinderment, but also too, you'll expect probably some other teams will have that as well. And it's unfortunate luck of the draw. I mean, it's nothing they did to deserve it, but it's one of those things that, okay, it just happens. Somebody's going to get this bad happen to them. But as far as the penalties, though, I think this is what I've noticed watching all these games is most of the coaches I see, like half of them at least, either don't wear the mask or they wear it wrong. And when you look at the COVID reports, you see almost a 50-50 split between the cases being players and coaches. And that's concerning to me because the coaches are the ones who should be wearing the masks on the sidelines, but they're not. And they're not wearing the masks, right? So I'm blaming with this whole situation of the Titans, I'm blaming more the coaches and the NFL in general, because they just got to wear the mask. Either that or they need to be virtual, like, or up in the press boxes and stuff and spread out that way instead of being directly on the field. But okay, so those were the main things I wanted to say. I wanted to say they should have done a week 18, and they should really hold the coaches more accountable. And I think they will going forward now. It's one of those things, though, they should have had a plan set in place before this happened. Instead, now they're like, okay, now we might take away draft picks and suspend coaches for not wearing masks, whereas they should have like had this idea beforehand.
Yeah,
before we had
it's not like this thing. It's not like this thing popped up like right before the season started. Like you had months to plan this out.
They had months to plan, and they were in. I don't know, man. But those were the main things I wanted to say. But I'll turn it over to Eric and see if he has got anything to add, and what your opinion is on this matter, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have pretty much hit all of the key points here, but the biggest thing that I especially have to like agree with Zach here is the masks thing. I don't understand why the coaches act like they can't wear them, or why, especially when they don't even have them on right, and that just looks really goofy when they're doing that. And I don't know, man. I guess it's because this is coming from somebody who, I work 8 or 9 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week, and the whole time at both of my jobs, I have to have a mask on. Right. So I'm used to doing that.
I can feel you there.
Yeah, and even with my pizza delivery, I know some of them might be like, "Oh, well, we're out in the heat or whatever." Well, I deliver pizzas too in South Texas, so you can imagine how hot that is.
Oh yeah,
and wearing a mask sucks.
Yeah,
so
well, I've had people like that too at my job, like at the grocery store when we go out to get carts outside, like. North Carolina, it gets like super hot in the summertime too, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's hot outside." It's like, bro, I'm going out in like triple-digit heat, getting carts and wearing it. Like, you'll be fine.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't understand why they won't do it, because, like Zach said too, a lot of the cases that have been happening have been coaches. I mean, and they should be setting an example for the players, and they're not when they're not wearing the mask, or they're wearing it with their nose not covered or whatever. I don't understand why they won't do that, because everybody wants to have a season. We're all so happy that sports are back and all this stuff, but then they could ruin it by not wearing the masks. And I don't know. I don't understand that.
The coaches argument that they've been saying is, I've heard some coaches say like they want to have the mask off so that they can like call the plays more clearly. But still, I I don't know.
Well, hey,
that
the solution for that is do what Andy Reid's doing and wear a face shield.
Yeah, yeah. I think I would wear the face shield if I were out there. Like,
Yeah, well, if you're just like an equipment coach or something, then like wear the mask. But like if you actually are calling plays, then like wear a face shield. Like your voice doesn't get muffled at all. And like,
I know. I'm not defending them. I'm just saying that's what they've said.
And the voices do get like ruffled a little bit with the mask, but if you talk loud enough, you can still be understood with what you're saying.
And also too, they don't have to hold up a clipboard anymore to their mouths.
Yeah, so I don't know, man, but yeah, I guess that's what I have to say is I just have to rant about the coaches like not wearing the mask. I really don't understand that because they are putting the season in jeopardy, and nobody wants football to get canceled. We're all so happy that we've even been, we were all talking about before the season when we did that poll, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how worried were we that the season would even happen? And we were all between 8 and 10, like all four of us, after the preseason game started getting canceled, like we were all pretty worried about it. And then, but it actually happened and we're all excited. But, that with all these Titans players getting it, then, the season was in serious jeopardy there, but it looks like it's been saved for now. But if this keeps going on, we could be looking at a bigger picture problem, not just worrying about when are the Titans and Steelers going to play their game or the whole bye week situation. Like, we could be looking at the season getting canceled here if this keeps up. So these people need to get it together and not don't go to parties.
Well, also too, it's the long snappers, it's the backup linebackers. Like that's a trend. Like Cam's an exception. We'll talk about him in a bit, but it is the coaches, it is the long snappers, it is the
it's the people who don't play, who
don't
the care.
Practice squad quarterback. So that's the thing, is you're letting more people in, and it's more potential. But
I'll let you get with Nate and with the Cam Newton situation.
Yeah, so Nate, tell us about what happened to Cam Newton and how long. Do you know how long he's going to be out for? Obviously, he missed this game against the Chiefs, but do you know what his symptoms are? Do you know how he's doing, and what's the plans moving forward?
So last I had heard, he didn't have any symptoms or anything. It sounded like he was still healthy.
Yeah.
So I was actually pulling that up earlier to see if he was gonna have to stay out. Because usually they say you have to quarantine for 14 days and all of that. I believe I'm pulling up the actual NFL reserve. They have the COVID reserve kind of injury reserve list for that set of guidelines. It says he can be removed from the list after 10 days of showing no symptoms. So this article from earlier today says it isn't clear whether he's had any symptoms. I haven't heard anything about that. I would assume if he was, super sick, we would have found out.
Yeah.
So it seems like if he has no symptoms, well, they announced he was positive Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. So that would be, if you're following the 10 days rule, he would be out next week as well, which obviously after tonight doesn't look that good for the Pats, but then he'd be back for the game after, hopefully, as long as he's healthy. So,
well, I guess the other way that you could probably get removed from that list is if you get negative tests. Like even if you're not showing symptoms, like
Well, I know the NBA bubble. They had the thing where like even if you had negative tests, you had to wait like 7 days or something before you could. So it's negative tests are a good thing. Like if he keeps having, it's kind of like lightning delays at sports games. Like if you get a positive test, like okay, we gotta wait 30 more minutes. We gotta wait X number of days, but you gotta wait for a sustained number of those negatives. So I don't know. I don't think.
Here.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, I read further down the article. So the shortest timeline it said is 5 days for a player. If he has, you have to get like what you were saying is back-to-back positive tests with 4 hours in between. So if he has those, he could be back and practicing by Wednesday and play next week, which would obviously be a lot more optimal. But if he doesn't test positive, he can still play in 10 days if he doesn't have any symptoms. So yeah, so at most, I guess he's going to miss one more game, but in all likelihood, he should be back for next Sunday's game, which would be very helpful.
Hey,
Yeah,
at least it was the Chiefs. Like,
Yep.
wasn't
Game
like
they're
you lost to the
probably not
Giants or
gonna.
something.
Right. That's the one thing that, as a Pats fan, I was definitely obviously bummed that he wasn't able to go. But out of all the games, this was definitely one that they were not favored in by any means. So I'm glad it was like what you were saying, it was this and not, the Dolphins or something. They choked because they didn't have Newton in. So
and also it's not like the playoffs are happening or they need to win this game to make the playoffs or anything. Like it's good to have it early in the season. So theoretically, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I don't think you can get it again in that quick of a time span. So
I would think so.
he should be fine the rest of the season, which will be good for him. But yeah, it's interesting stuff. I mean, we went the first couple weeks and there was nothing across the board, and then now all of a sudden, boom, boom. These two teams that both played each other had a positive case, which is interesting. And then I heard the Lions had a false positive. They started freaking out about, or the Saints. I think it was the Saints actually. They had a false
Yeah.
positive. So that Saints Lions game was in question too. I was like, oh man. And then they found out it was false positive, but still crazy stuff going on in the NFL. Hopefully next week we'll have better news as far as this goes, and hopefully they play all the games scheduled next week. But something to keep an eye on for sure, and it's not as stable as we thought it was 2 weeks ago. But let's go ahead now and talk about some actual NFL news that happened on the field. And so that's going to be between the Cleveland Dallas game. Seeing here on the picks slide, Eric and I picked Cleveland to win. Connor and Nate picked Dallas to win, and so it's 2-2. But Eric, I was surprised you picked Cleveland, being like a semi-Cowboys fan, as your second favorite team. Like, I'll let you go ahead and start. Like, I don't know if you watched the game or not, but 49-38 Cleveland, and Dallas made a big
Yeah,
comeback too. But tell us about Dallas.
I didn't get to see all of this game because I was at work for a big chunk of it. I saw them I saw that it was like 41-14 at one point, and then Dallas somehow got it to 41-38 before Cleveland got another score and sealed it. But I don't know, man. I know in our buy sell episode we talked about the Cowboys defense and were they going to hold them back, and I had initially said no because I felt like overall against the Rams they did okay, and then I didn't fully blame them for the 39 points against Atlanta because of all the turnovers the offense had that put them in the bad field position and everything. But when Baker Mayfield and the Browns are putting 49 up on you, and obviously Russell Wilson's great, but the Seahawks just torch you. They're just getting torched the whole game right now. Like, I didn't realize how bad this Cowboys defense is. I think they miss Byron Jones in the secondary, and I know Leighton Vander Esch got hurt in the first game, so that's one player who's no longer on the team and one player who's injured. But just the rest of this defense is just bad. I mean, they can't stop a nosebleed. Like, I thought the Jaguars defense was bad going into the season, but
Yeah, Dallas is worse.
we have at least stopped the run sometimes, and
sometimes
forced a few turnovers here and there.
Yeah.
But like, it just seems like the Dallas defense just can't do anything. And as good as, I mean, the Cowboys offense has been inconsistent at times. It seems like they start off slow and then get hot later in the game. And obviously you down by a big deficit early, but at the rate they're going, I mean, this Cowboys offense could score 40 points a game and they're still going to be losing. I mean, I haven't seen a defense this bad in quite some time. I mean, and it, obviously it sucks because in my household, I'm a Jags fan, and then my fiance is a Cowboys fan. So with both of our teams being 1-3,
well, you don't have happy wife, happy life right now.
Yeah, no. I don't know if there's a rhyme for happy husband, but there's not that either. You know? It's pretty bad. I mean, the only saving grace for the Cowboys right now is at least that division is so god awful that even with a 1-3 record, they're only a half game back in the division. Like, if the Eagles had lost to the 49ers last night, I was going to make a poll on Twitter and I was going to say, should the NFC East be deserving of having a playoffs or a team in the playoffs? And the choices were going to be no, no way, hell no, or fuck no. Like those are going to be the 4 choices. So you'd have to pick which one. But yeah, the NFC East is bad. The Cowboys are bad. And I know we're going to transition this over to the Browns too, because they had that really ugly game in week 1 against the Ravens. But since then they've, turned it around and won 3 in a row. This is the best they've looked in a while. So I guess like what Zach and I were going to talk about, or maybe even debate, I don't know, is this like an indicator that Cleveland is good, or is it an indicator that Dallas is bad? So Zach, what do you think about this?
I'll actually I want to get Connor, because before the episode Connor was definitely talking about the Dallas slow starts. So Connor, tell us about the Dallas slow starts more in detail.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that, like, I mean, this is that you can't expect to, on a regular basis, get down, as big of a deficit as they were. I mean, they were down 39-24 to Atlanta, and then they were down, like Eric said, like 41-14 to Cleveland. It's like, I don't care if Dak Prescott throws for like 400 yards in the fourth quarter. Like, you can't be getting that far down and expect to come back. I mean, and honestly, and I'm talking about the Cowboys record too, like, they're only 1-3, but honestly, they should be 0-4. Like, they really should not have won that game against the Falcons.
They really shouldn't have.
They that the Falcons just really screwed up big time on that onside kick. So it's just something for the Cowboys. And I mean, I guess, you want to talk about, like, is Cleveland really good, or is Dallas really bad? I'm definitely leaning more towards Dallas is really bad. Like, because I know with the Browns, like, one of their wins came against the Bengals, and then they got absolutely destroyed by the Ravens in week 1. Like, that was not pretty at all. And then I can't remember who they played last week. They beat was it the Jets? Oh no, they beat Washington, who's also not very good.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm really waiting for Cleveland just to, like, I want to see more. I mean, I want to, if they can consistently put this up, then yeah, I'll agree that Cleveland is a threat to Pittsburgh. And I mean, maybe not Baltimore yet, just because of how badly they got torched in week 1. But, like, I will agree that they're a threat to some of the other teams in the AFC. But I think it's more so right now that Dallas is just that bad. And I think Dak Prescott needs to, like, he just has this syndrome of, making these mistakes, or, like, not really throwing the ball well for 3 quarters, but then all of a sudden turns into, like, Tom Brady or Joe Montana in the fourth quarter, and, like, looks like a Hall of Famer. So it's like, I don't know how that happens, like, how you're just so bad and then you look like an all-pro for 1 quarter.
Well, I'll tell you why. It's because they're down so much and teams are playing prevent defense. And I made a tweet the other day. I said, prevent defense prevents you from winning. And
I will definitely agree that is, prevent defense is like the worst defense ever created. Like, the only time it ever has any practical use is on a Hail Mary, or like on a 3rd or 4th and like 25 or something, when they're not in field goal range. Because that's the other thing. Like, if they're on like a 3rd and 25 and say they're on like the 40-yard line, like, you don't want to give up, like a 20-yard play, because then that puts an easier field goal. So, like, the only time it has any significance is if it's 3rd and 25 and they're on the wrong side of midfield, or it's like a Hail Mary, and that's the only time that you should ever use that defense.
Well, teams do it though, and that's, I think, how he gets all those stats in the fourth. But going back to the question Eric was saying, and obviously, guys, like, I picked Cleveland to go pretty far in the playoffs at the start of the year. I was a Cleveland believer. What do they they call them? I was a believer. But
you're a believer?
Oh no.
This is one of those games though. Yeah, Dallas is bad, but they had to go on the road. There's still fans in Dallas, so it's a little bit, it's similar to a regular NFL atmosphere on the road. They're not supposed to win this. Old Cleveland, the thing is the Browns have a winning record for like the first time in forever. They're showing me different stuff than they've shown in the past couple of years. Odell Beckham finally had a big game.
I know he might save me in fantasy this week after George Kittle's big game.
Yeah, and Mayfield was pretty good, and honestly, they could have even had more points because I saw they had some dropped interceptions, and there was a overthrow for a potential touchdown that they also could have gotten. So, I mean, they really could have even had more points. As crazy as that sounds, getting 49. Dallas obviously really bad for that, but the fact that Cleveland's now they're putting together a win streak. They had an awful game against the Ravens, but it's the Ravens week 1 at Baltimore. I'm not gonna hold them too accountable for that. It wasn't good because they got blown out, but I'm really starting to be bullish on Cleveland now. It's a tough AFC North, that's for sure. But I was optimistic about them to start the season, and so far, if you were to say Cleveland is 3-1 after the first 4 weeks, I would have said okay, I'll take that. If I'm picking the Browns to make it to the AFC Championship game, I'd be okay with that. But as far as the Dallas being bad, Cleveland being good, I'm gonna weigh it a little bit more on the Cleveland being good side. But Eric, I want to hear what you've got to say if you agree with that or not.
Yeah, I'm more in agreement with Connor. I don't think Cleveland's necessarily like not good or anything like that. Yeah. But I mean, Dallas is bad. Let's be real here. Like,
yeah,
their defense sucks, and the offense is inconsistent. And I was a believer in them in the season, at least to win that division. I don't even know if they can do that now. We'll see. But I'm in agreement with Connor though, just in the sense that I want to see Cleveland have a good game against a team that is good, or at least that is supposed to be good. If I see that, then I'm definitely going to be. It could be then like an indicator of both that Cleveland is good and Dallas is bad. But
hey, well, week 6 at Pittsburgh. That's their next because they're playing Indianapolis this week, so I'm not going to reel at home. But week 6 at Pittsburgh, that's going to be the telling game. I think for both the Steelers and the Browns, that's a telling game.
Yeah, really.
Mark it on your calendars.
I'll be watching. Plus, those teams got history too. But Nate, haven't heard from you real quick, so I want to get your take. Between the Cleveland being good, Dallas being bad sort of thing, where do you fall on that spectrum?
Yeah, it's kind of a tough one for me because I was not really that excited about either of these two teams coming into the year. I think I don't want to be a cop-out, but I think I'm definitely in the middle of that. I think Cleveland, definitely we talked about it, has the talent. This is about them putting it together, so I'm not surprised they were able to put up a lot of points when Odell and Jarvis had great games. So that wasn't a huge surprise to me. Dallas, you knew their defense wasn't that great coming into the year. So I'm not super surprised there either. So I think it's definitely a mix. I think Dallas probably a pretender this year. I think the way the NFC East looks, that's not a good division at all. And when they've played teams outside of it, they've lost. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think Dallas isn't a great team, but I don't think that diminishes that Cleveland's offense might be starting to get rolling the way we've been expecting for the last year and a half.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we'll wrap up the NFL talk there.
I was just going to say, quick question for Zach before we go on. Do you think Joe Schobert regrets leaving the Browns and coming to the Jags?
I mean, after week 1, he was like, "This is the first time I've ever been 1-0." So now,
that's why
he's like, "I've been 1-3 before, though." He's probably saying that.
I just had to throw that out there real fast.
Yeah, Joe. All right, yeah. So we'll go to
Joe.
Just shaking my head, Joe. I mean, he hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been good. That's the way Joe Schobert's been this year is because I've watched all the Jags games. He's been solid, but he's not been like all Pro Bowl, but he's not been in like a weak spot. So he's average Joe. So let's look here at the lock board from last week. You see a lot of green in Connor's row. He got all three of his picks right. And then some red across the board for everybody else. So Connor, review for our listeners and viewers the 3 picks that you had that were all right this week.
Yeah, well, they all kind of gave me a heart attack at different points, unfortunately, because I seem to continue this trend of like, I mean, really, I think last week was the only time I had a 1-point pick that was like really dominant when it was like, the Colts over the Jets. But this week with the Rams over the Giants, I mean, the Rams just couldn't do anything in that game. And I was thinking, like, what is going on? Like, the Rams should easily be. I mean, we all picked them for survival too. So I was like, why are the Rams sucking? But they managed to pull that out. And then SMU gave me a heart attack because they were up 24-3, and I'm thinking, like, great, that was like the best pick that I could have made. And then I turn around, and then 5 minutes later, it's 24-20, and I'm like, whoa, like, what happened there? How'd you give up 17 unanswered in like 5 minutes? So, but thankfully they held on to win that game. And then I guess Iowa State came back against Oklahoma because I didn't really pay attention to that game. I just
they did.
I saw Oklahoma was winning for most of it, so. But thankfully, Iowa State pulled it out. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't expect all of these to work out for me. Especially, I didn't expect the Iowa State one to work out. I thought the other 2 would. So, I'm really happy how it turned out. I went a little bit more conservative this week than normal, and it paid off.
Yeah, it definitely did. Let's take a look. So, for the current week that we just had, my picks only got me 1 point. Eric's picks got him 4. Connor got 7-7 on his, and Nate had 0. So,
ouch.
Based on that order, the total standings now, Connor's in first place with 25. I'm in second with 21. Eric's in third with 14, and Nate's in last with 6. So, got some ground to make up, but it's a new week, another opportunity. Nate's going to be picking first as a result of what happened last week. I'm going to be picking second. Eric picks third. Connor picks fourth. So, Nate, you've got the first pick once again. I'll put the betting lines up for everybody to see and check out, but do you know what you're going to pick for the first game of the week?
Yep, I was looking at this before we got on. I think I'm going to go with the Jags over Houston. It's a little bit of a risky play, but I think Houston's going to give up some points.
Okay,
is that a 5-point one?
No, that's a 3-pointer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a 3-pointer because Houston's
I don't know why I would have thought that Houston would have been favored that much over Jacksonville being 0-4. So
yeah. All right. So glad you picked that, Nate, because I wasn't going there. I am going to go.
Dang.
I mean, I hope you're right though, but
yeah.
I'm gonna go Dolphins over 49ers for a potential 5-point. I just think that's getting potentially 5 points on that's a steal. I mean, the 49ers just lost this week, and they value them so highly against the Dolphins, who hung in there against the Seahawks. And I'm still not a big 49er believer. So come on, Fitzmagic. All right, Eric, you've got the next pick.
All right. I definitely got a few that I'm looking at. I'm just worried if any of them might get sniped for my second.
Same.
So I'm debating on which one I want to pick. Let's see. Okay. Coin flip. Okay, I will for a potential 3-pointer here. I am going to trust Zach's judgment on the Browns, and I'm going to take the Browns to beat the Colts.
Okay.
Surprised the Colts are favored in that game, honestly.
Yeah.
But all right, well, I'm glad no one took my pick because I thought this was a pretty easy one for me, especially after last week. I know these games are always close, but I just don't think Oklahoma, because I mean it really says Texas at Oklahoma, but Oklahoma's not really the home team that's always played at a neutral site. So I think this is a pretty easy 3-pointer to take Texas over Oklahoma.
I was debating that one. I didn't want my NFL one to go.
That's good potential. I just wanted to stay away because they're both been so bad. I don't know who's going to be worse.
Well, I mean, those games are always close, though. I mean, it seems like I've seen years where like Oklahoma was like the best team in the Big 12, and Texas was horrible, but Texas still gave them a game. So
that's true.
It's kind of like the Steelers-Ravens rivalry.
I'm looking at bigger fish though with 5 games. So I didn't check that one out. All right, Nate, start us off in round 2.
All right, so those are a couple of the ones I was looking at for my second pick, but I'm not surprised they're off the board. Let me see where else I can go. It's a little bit tricky. I don't like a whole lot of the NFL games, but I think I might go Carolina over Atlanta.
That was the other way
that the Falcons have really imploded.
I'm one of my top 3 picks.
Was that?
I'm worried. I'm worried Zach's gonna snipe my pick with his next one.
I hope I get it right because I've got 2 that I'm between. All right. Which one do I think will? I'm gonna go. All right. I'm gonna go. I picked against them last week. I'm going to go Tennessee Vols over Georgia.
Yeah, that was what I was going to take.
Yeah, potential 5-point play there, and got the rooting interest for it too. So I really don't trust Georgia's quarterback, and Tennessee's like really good the first 2 weeks. So I'm happy to take that. Eric, it's your turn.
Okay. Oh boy, I got sniped a couple of times there, so I should have seen that coming, but man, it's just don't see much that I like. The NFL picks are especially not good this week, and I don't usually pick in the college spectrum because I don't know most of these teams. That's my disadvantage with this.
You still got the NBA game too.
Yeah, I was looking at that, but let's see. I know Oklahoma hasn't looked good, but I know Kansas State beat them, so I'm going to take Kansas State over TCU.
All right.
That is Kansas State, right? Like it's not like
Kansas State
or some okay.
No, that's Kentucky State.
like not some school I've never heard of or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, I mean, no, these NFL ones are tough, but I think if other than Miami and San Francisco, I think the most likely 5-point upset. I mentioned I didn't like how they looked last week. I'm going to take the football team over the Los Angeles Rams.
Right. Boy, yeah. Connor going the 5-pointer there.
That is a bold pick.
Yep. All right.
Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
Hey, Connor hasn't got one wrong in a while, so I'm going to trust it.
That's true. That's true.
All right. Nate, you're up here with your last pick. Where are you going?
All right, with my last pick, I haven't done too well in college so far, but I'm going to go over to the SEC and pick Mississippi State over Kentucky.
Yep. So Mississippi State, you don't know. It's so hard because they beat LSU, but then they lost to Arkansas.
Yeah.
It's like they beat the team last year who won the national championship, and then they lost to a team that had a 20-game SEC losing streak. But they're playing Kentucky.
Be a gamble.
So, Arkansas finally broke that streak.
They did.
Yep.
All right. So we've got one NBA game on the lock board, and I'm going to take it. I'm going to take the Heat over the Lakers. for
I mean,
5
you're not going
points.
to. Zach's going all 5-pointers here. This could either be really good or really bad.
Yeah, I can. I like all 5 though, or all those
I mean,
numbers.
there's 2 of those that I do hope happen.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be happy for your scoreline, but I do hope they happen.
All right, Eric, last pick, man.
Final pick for me. Okay. So do I pick the Giants over the Cowboys and piss Susan off, or do I steer clear of that? I'm actually gonna I really would like to take a safe pick, but I feel like I'm too far behind right now, so I'm not gonna do that. I am going to hop over to the college side again. I'm just gonna take a wild guess here.
Okay.
I'm going to take Virginia Tech over North Carolina.
And that's one I hope doesn't happen.
Yeah, so that could be a 3-pointer there for Eric with that one. All right, so the last pick of this week's lock board goes to Connor. Got fewer choices now to pick from, but
well, I guess everybody else is feeling threatened because nobody took a safe pick, but I'm going to take a safe pick because, I mean, getting 1 point, I think, is essential every week. I mean, even if you get your upsets wrong, you at least don't put up a 0. So I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens to beat the Cincinnati Bengals.
The Bengals.
All right, yeah. So there you have it, guys. That's our lock board. We will report back next week with how these go. Could be some zeros, could be some big numbers. We'll see.
Well, of course, somehow the Bengals are going to make it close against the Ravens now that I picked that.
Yeah, if you're picking that game as far as like with the spread in consideration, like go Cincy. Which honestly, I would have gone Cincy even if I was picking with the spread because that's a lot of points. And the Bengals won, but that's just my advice. I was pretty good at that last year. Humble brag. All right, gonna talk about NBA basketball now, as we always end the show talking about the NBA, and obviously we're gonna be talking about the finals here. And I want to talk about how the 3 games have gone, what we think will happen going forward, because the third game was definitely a lot different than the first 2. And the thing is you always have fresh in your mind, like, oh, the Heat just won, like, oh. But I know I picked the Heat to win on the lock board, but that was an odds choice because I think the Lakers will win, but I just wanted to get it for the odds because I think the Heat have a chance of winning. So
it's not like you'd be upset if they won either.
No, true. That's also a benefit. Whereas last week I picked against Tennessee in college. So, but yeah. So the way the series has gone has been interesting. Game 1, all the injuries happened to Miami. Lakers never really trailed. It was a big game by AD and LeBron, and it was unwatchable, really. The Heat started out pretty good, I remember, and then the Lakers went on like a 70-30 run.
I think it was like after Bam went out, like the Lakers just like ran away with it.
Yeah, it was a crazy like scoring differential run in the middle part of the game. Then the Heat made the score look nicer at the end, but it was a dominant win for the Lakers. Game 1, Game 2, the Lakers never really were threatened. They basically always had a double-digit lead. The Heat would bring it to 9, but then the Lakers would bring it back up. And after Game 2, everybody in the world was thinking, okay, like let's just get it over with. Like let's just get on to next season. But to the Heat's credit, they said no, we're still here. We're still a team. We deserve to be here, and they won Game 3. Pretty similar to the way. Well, actually, it was different because of lead changes and stuff. But the final score, anyway, similar to Game 2, is the Heat getting basically a double-digit win over the Lakers. And so now we're at the 2-1. Lakers lead the series. Crucial game 4 here, because if the Lakers win this game, it's highly unlikely the Heat win the series. And if the Heat win the game, it's like, oh my God, is this gonna go the distance? Like, so I know originally I picked, this was pre-injuries, I picked Lakers in 6 with injuries. And by the way, I don't think any of the guys that were hurt are gonna come back based on the injuries that they have. I'm said before, I'm not a doctor, but my God, if he
Really,
can come
Zach?
back from the injury Dragic had and play in this quickly, I mean, that would just be insane. But so I don't think that Bam or Dragic will come back really in the series. So it's gonna be interesting. Like, I picked the Heat on the lock board, but I think the Lakers win game 4. But what's really got to happen is for the Lakers to win, they really got to stop committing so many fouls. Like, try and find a way so you don't get KCP switched on to Butler. Um, Try and find ways that you force the Heat to shoot a lot of threes, because the Heat are very good at making free throws, and they've gotten a lot all series long. They've gotten a lot of free throw attempts. If the Lakers can severely cut that down and reduce that amount of fouls that they commit, I think they would win easy. And for the Heat, I think the Heat need to get away from the zone defense, because it's giving LA so many open 3-pointers. And I trust Rondo. That's the player I trust a lot on the Lakers, other than LeBron and AD, is Rondo to come up big. He had a bad game 3, but I think if they keep playing the way they keep playing the soft zone, yeah, it keeps AD, it limits AD a little bit, but it's just so deadly and so demoralizing when Caruso or Markieff Morris start making 3-pointers. Um, so for the Heat's sake, I think I hope they get away from that zone defense they've been playing, and for the Lakers fans, they just gotta not send Miami to the free throw line so many times. So those are my like keys to the game, I guess, for game 4 and stuff. But
Home Depot keys to the game or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
your Home Depot keys to the game, yeah. But Eric, so I summarized how the series has been going, but do you have any opinions? Like, has this been a surprise to you? And what do you think will happen now?
Yeah, so going off of what you said with the zone coverage thing, game 3 was where Miami finally started to get away from that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Lakers were torching them with it in game 1, and if I was Eric Spoelstra, I would have just scrapped it after game 1. But unfortunately, I don't know if it was because of the personnel he had with,
Yeah.
not having Bam and Dragic in there, or what the reasoning was, but he stuck with the zone defense for a lot in game 2, and it didn't work either. I mean, they're getting torched from threes, but the biggest difference in game 2, why the Lakers won that game so easily, was because of the amount of offensive rebounds and putbacks that AD was getting. I mean,
Yeah.
the Lakers were not as hot as they were in game 1 with the 3, but then AD's crashing on the boards and getting all these second chance points, and that's what was the dagger for Miami in game 2. But what I liked in game 3, there are 2 things that I liked in game 3 were, one, they got away from the zone coverage. They did it every now and then in the game, but they did it way less. And what I also liked was when Jimmy Butler was on LeBron, when they would try to do screens or something to create switches, the Heat weren't having it. Maybe they would like switch for a second, but then they would quickly rotate back and Butler would stay on LeBron. And of course, LeBron still got some points, but Jimmy Butler's the best defender on that team, capable.
Yeah. You don't want Duncan
capable of
Robinson
guarding.
on LeBron.
Yeah, you don't want like Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson guarding LeBron. You want Jimmy Butler on him, and so I really liked the adjustments that they made there. And the other adjustment that I liked in game 3 for the Heat was, I noticed a lot in games 1 and 2 that Jimmy Butler was playing really timid offensively. He was constantly driving into the paint towards the rim, but then he was trying to kick it out to somebody, or it was like he wasn't looking to score. But he did do it sometimes in game 3, but for the most part, he was in attack mode. And that's what Miami needs, especially with Dragic and Bam not being in there. Like, Jimmy Butler needs to take over the game like that. Even if he misses, like, and isn't as hot as he was in game 3, I'm okay if I'm a Heat fan if we lose because Jimmy Butler tried to do everything he could to take over the game instead of driving into the paint and kicking it out or just not looking to score and just kind of facilitating. Like, I don't want Jimmy Butler doing that if I'm a Heat fan. I want him going in there with the same attitude and swagger that he had in game 3. I don't expect him to get 40 points every time, but if they're going to have any chance to win it, that's what's going to need to happen. But unfortunately, though, with all of that being said, I'm pretty sure the Lakers are going to win the next 2 games. Going into the series, I said Lakers in 5, and I'm unfortunately still. Obviously, I don't want it to happen, but
I was gonna say because you picked the Heat to win Game 1, right?
Yeah, I picked the Heat to win
So
game
I was
1.
gonna say, like, if you pick them to win Game 4, I'm gonna be like, okay, last year's happening again.
No, I know. I know last year because
Yeah.
year when the NBA Finals were happening, there wasn't football going on, so we were breaking down every
Yeah,
game
we did
that
game by
happened
game,
and
yeah.
everything. Obviously, we can't do that now
Yeah.
with the NFL. But my predictions were Heat in game 1, Lakers in game 2, Lakers in game 3. So I've only gotten one of them right. Maybe I should just maybe if I keep picking the Lakers, maybe I'll get it wrong. But I picked the Lakers in 5. I'm still picking them to win the next game, and then probably if they win the next game, I'll probably be picking them in game 5 too. But the biggest thing that hurt the Lakers in game 4 or in game 3 that Zach didn't talk about was Anthony Davis getting in foul trouble early in the game, and because he never got into the flow of the game, he didn't play that many minutes. He didn't get that many looks, and because he wasn't on the floor, he wasn't getting those offensive rebounds that he was getting in game 2. Anthony Davis was basically a non-factor. And then the other thing that really cost LA too was, besides the fouls that Zach talked about, was LeBron had 8 turnovers. I think the Lakers in the first quarter had
Eric, he had a triple double. Or almost a triple double.
Did he?
He did. I mean, he got his numbers. And two, like I do have. I mean, I will give LeBron credit when he has good games, but if you just look at the box score and see the 25 and 9 and 8 or whatever the hell it was, his numbers look good, but he had 8 turnovers. He had 9 assists or whatever it was, but he had just as many turnovers. That's not going to get the job done. And if you look at what he did in the final 8 minutes of the game, the Lakers had actually been down most of the game, but got to a 2-point lead at one point. But then after that, LeBron had 2 traveling violations. He committed fouls defensively on Jimmy Butler. He bricked 2 3-pointers. He was 1 of 5 from 3 for the whole game. But the only point he got in the last 8 minutes of the game was a easy layup where the Heat had a mess up defensively, which gave him an easy path, and then they didn't bother trying to contest it because they had a 10-point lead at that point. So they didn't want to risk fouling him and giving him an and one. So he got an easy dunk or a layup, whatever it was, from that. That was his only points in the final 8 minutes of the game. And they were ahead by 2 when that started. It wasn't like they were down 25 and they were just giving up and the backups came in or something. The Lakers, despite everything that went wrong for them in this game and AD barely playing, they still had just as good a chance to win the game. So I expect the Lakers to come out more aggressively. I don't expect LeBron is one thing I do give him credit for is his passing. He doesn't normally have 8 turnovers like that. So I expect him to be more efficient with his passing. I expect AD to not get into foul trouble this time and be more involved. And unfortunately, I just don't think the Heat have the weapons to sustain it enough to win 4 games.
Myers the Hammer Leonard versus AD.
Speaking of Myers the Hammer Leonard, for some reason they had players mic'd up for the game, but it was him for the Heat and like Markieff Morris for the Lakers. So like, that's who he picked.
Not like AD and Butler or like Hero and LeBron. Like
No, yeah, it was. But Myers Leonard, he's a spark of energy over there on the bench, cheering on his teammates. Like, that's great, but that's not making the difference in the game. Okay, like let's.
Like, do you want to hear from the cheerleaders or the players?
Yeah. Jimmy Butler's out there making the difference. Okay, and one thing I love though that Jimmy Butler said before I pass it over is, I know I've kind of talked a lot here, but he after the game, I think they said that he was only like the third player in NBA history to record a triple-double while scoring 40 points in a finals game or something. And so the interviewer asked him about that. Yeah, you got a 40-point triple-double. How do you feel about that? And he said, I don't care about the triple-double. He said, I care that we won.
Well, I was like, it's a triple-double. Like triple-double's the most important stat in the NBA.
Like somebody who doesn't care about their stats. Like that's if I'm starting a team, that's somebody who I want on my team. I want somebody who will do whatever it takes to win the game. I don't want somebody who's like, oh, well, look at my rebounds and assists, or
for a big contract,
or I have triple doubles. I don't care about that. Do you want to win? Do you want to lead the team? Okay, you're on my team. Like, like if I was an NBA or NFL GM, like that would be especially NBA, that'd be like the number one question I ask, like when I'm scouting rookies or something, be like, which is more important to you, winning or stats? Okay, stats. No, I'm not drafting you. Like, I want people that want to win. That's who I want on my team. But like I said, unfortunately, I don't see the Heat getting it done though. I hope they do. But I don't see it happening. I am still sticking with Lakers in 5.
All right. So we haven't heard from Connor, who's our other NBA insider. So Connor, tell us anything we missed and your predictions.
Yeah, I mean, I was the only one to pick the Heat to start with, the Heat in 7. As much as how bad it looks right now, I think I'm gonna stick to my guns. Like, I'm not gonna change it right now because. I know one thing for the Heat is that, Dragic isn't coming back. Like a torn plantar fascia, there's no way you're coming back from that. But from what I've been hearing, it seems like Bam might actually come back at some point, which that's definitely the key for the Lakers for sure, is that, while Bam is out, I mean, you mentioned Anthony Davis not being a factor. Like, if they can't take advantage of Anthony Davis being guarded by Myers Leonard or Jay Crowder or Kelly Olynyk, when Bam Adebayo is not there, if they can't take advantage of that, then the Lakers have a serious issue on their hands because, and I think, honestly, I hate to, keep ripping on LeBron, but I think AD's bad game right there, I think, is really a reflection of, I know we were going to talk about, who should be deserving of Finals MVP. I think that's the reason why I would give it to Anthony Davis because, if the Lakers do end up winning, because it seems to me LeBron can have a bad game, but if AD has a good game, then the Lakers will still win. But then if AD has a bad game and LeBron has an okay game, if AD is bad, then they lose because LeBron can't pick up the slack enough because he's not taking over the game. He's too busy trying to pass it to Caruso or KCP for some reason instead of, being LeBron James. I'm just going to pass it. So, like I said, if the Heat can get Bam Adebayo back and if they can keep, doing what they were doing, the Heat just seemed to they're this team that never goes away. And I think what really sparked them was because, obviously they were underdogs coming into this. No one, other than me and maybe 5 other people thought that the Heat were going to win.
All the Heat fans.
Yeah, right. And me and the 5 other non-Heat fans that thought that they were gonna win. Nobody thought that. Everybody was all saying that it was gonna be the Lakers from the start. So, but I think really being down 2 games and really being let's get this over with. There's no point. I think that really awakened a fire in them. I woke up a fire in Jimmy Butler and it woke up a fire in the rest of the team. Mm-hmm. And I do agree that, they need to, if they can keep those adjustments and stop playing that zone, because I thought the zone was going to be good to start with because the Lakers aren't traditionally the best 3-point shooting team in the league. KCP and Danny Green and Kuzma and Caruso, like they all have, they have nights where they're good, but they're very up and down when it comes to shooting the 3-pointers. So, and obviously LeBron's not a good 3-point shooter either. So I thought that was going to work, but yeah, when it stopped working in game 1, it was amazing to me. Like Eric said, that they didn't go away from it in game 2. It's like, okay, clearly this didn't work, but let's try it again because, let's stick to it. And I understand that, well, okay, Eric Spoelstra's thinking, well, this has been working all playoffs. Like, this is how we beat the Bucks. This is how we beat the Celtics. But, like, at some point, you got to wake up to the fact that you got to make adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if they can keep making those adjustments and if they can find a way to, maybe somehow keep Anthony Davis in check or get him in foul trouble again, then that's definitely the recipe for the Heat. Like LeBron's always gonna, get his like 23 points and 9 rebounds and 9 assists or whatever. Like, there's not really any stopping that. But especially when, like Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson is, guarding him for the most part, being that LeBron plays the 1. So, but if they can keep Anthony Davis in check, then I think that's the main recipe for the Heat is to keep Anthony Davis in check. So, while I'm sticking with my pick with the Heat in 7, I'm not going out on a limb and saying like that's 100% going to happen because the Lakers like could easily turn around and just crush them, tomorrow night. So, but yeah, I think that's to stop Anthony Davis, and the Heat could possibly do it, and maybe hopefully for their sake, if they can get Bam Adebayo back, they'll have a slight chance.
Yeah, all right, guys. Well, that's where we're gonna wrap the show up. We'll see what happens. I guess this will be coming out on the same day as Game 4, so we'll see what happens. Maybe, hopefully, next time we're here, we're still talking about the finals and not talking to the draft. So
that's over a month away.
Yeah, or free agency, or I don't know, whatever we got planned. We'll probably talk about the finals regardless, but hopefully they're still going on. I don't know, but all right, guys. Well, until then, remember, be clutch.
Bye.
See ya.
Peace.